to be fair, when people talk about the differences between Labour and the Tories, that's it right there, isn't it? If the Tories had just said, take us on trust, there would have been a slight pause, then everybody would have burst out laughing.
Yes, they would be like, sorry, was that trust with a T or trust with an S? Because if it's the second one, we're not doing that.
Hello, everyone out there. This is a very special relationship, the US and UK show that sees two countries separated by an ocean, but united by their unbelievable love of bloated shag monsters. My name is Matt Johnson. I host a show called The Interesting Times, and from America, or whatever it will be called once Trump gets elected next month, is Andrea Bridges Smith. Andrea, I'm just going to ask, are you sober?
Am I supposed to be? No, it's 9:30 a.m. right now, and as of now, still sober. Can't say for how much longer. So I do have my shirt on. Now panic and freak out, which is kind of a good summary of our nation right now.
Oh, yes. And the upside down crown, that's very good. That's a definite call for help, isn't it?
It is. It is. If you guys could just send over a boat or something, that'd be great. So Matt, are you familiar with the five stages of grief, the bargaining, denial, acceptance, all that?
I am, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so over here we have something similar for our elections. I like to call it the five stages of American elections. So stage one is borrowed from Vanilla Ice, which is Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know, in which we cannot believe how long the election has gone on. This is the part of the election where time stops and in some cases starts going in reverse. Scientists are studying this. Now, stage two is elation. This is when your candidate is doing well. Both sides have already been through that this summer. Now, we are currently here at stage three, which is gastrointestinal distress, where you just feel nauseous all the time. This is, of course, followed by stage four, which is Zen like acceptance, followed by stage five, which is binge drinking. And a lot of people have said that we should do the acceptance part at the end, but if you go straight from gastrointestinal distress to binge drinking, things get pretty messy, so you really need that recalibration period in the middle.
Recalibration is the best thing for the liver, apparently.
Yes, yes, exactly. Now, to put this in more personal terms, when I was pregnant for the first time, my son was born 11 days late. One day I was at a coffee shop right around, just after my due date, and a woman asked me when I was due, and I said last Wednesday, and she really didn't know how to respond to that. And so basically, I was pregnant forever. And so they finally said, you know what, come into the hospital and let's see if we can move things along here. And when I was in the hospital trying to go into labor, they said, well, he's showing some signs of distress, so we have to do a C-section like in the next hour. And my immediate thought was, I can't have a baby right now, which was absurd because I've been pregnant for like 9 years at that point.
Was it a case of, wait, how much did I put on that parking meter?
Yes, yes, kind of like that. And that's sort of how I feel about the election at the moment. All of a sudden, it's actually about to happen, and it's like, no, wait, we can't have an election right now. It's too soon, which is stupid because in the time that this election has been going on, empires have risen and fallen. Entire species have evolved and become extinct in the time that this election has been going on. So I truly cannot fathom what it's going to be like for it to be over. I can't wait for it to be over, but I'm also really terrified that, what that result might be. Right now, we don't know.
Yeah, yeah. In a way, you're still happy with the don't know. I'd rather not know, I suppose. In a way, I suppose you got to think of it like death. We've all got to go through it, right? But once it happens, you'll either be in heaven or the other place.
Well, I think I might actually already be in the other place. If not, I'm certainly in the blueprint for it.
Yeah, it's going back to the stages of grief again. So tell our viewers and watchers, Andrea, what's the absolute latest on the polling? Because every time I look at it, it seems to be Harris is in front, then Trump. It's looking as tight as Melania's smile.
Nothing tighter than that smile. It's like a pickle jar lid. You can't unscrew. So the polls are very close. They're way too close. And everyone is either obsessing over them and freaking out about them, or they're writing articles called "Stop Freaking Out About the Polls." I think I've seen like 3 of those this week, which is hilarious because, like, as if we could stop freaking out about the polls. Don't you
Yeah.
think we would if we could? We cannot. I do have to say, though, something happened this week that really illustrates how insane it is that these polls are close at all.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that the media has been, going after Kamala Harris and nitpicking her every move and like, oh, she's not doing enough of this and she's not doing enough of that and she needs to do more. And, it's absurd. There is definitely a sexist layer to that. She is a normal candidate doing normal candidate things, and everybody needs to get the fuck off of her back. Just want to say that first of all. Now, over on the other side of the aisle, you have Donald Trump, who did a town hall. I don't know if you call it the same thing over there, but this is basically where a politician goes on stage and they take questions from the audience, and then they have to make up answers on the spot where they, kind of shoehorn in their talking points, and they have no teleprompters to help them. So you have to kind of be on your toes. Like, I'm sure you guys have that over there. I don't know if it's called the same thing.
Yes, yes, we got that over here. I mean, the parties do actually do what they can to make sure there are no nasty surprises, right?
Hmm.
Whatever they can. I mean, before the last election, Rishi Sunak actually went to a biscuit factory. I think Leicester, was it? Somewhere in the Midlands, I beg your pardon. And it basically it had a couple of local Tory councillors in high vis jackets. They sneaked them in at various points of this, and it would, if things were suffering a little bit, you go, "Oh, let's take a question from you." So obviously there were lots of jokes in the press once they found out about him crumbling under pressure. But I
Yeah.
imagine that Trump had the same sort of thing, right?
Yeah, he doesn't take pressure well. So Trump's at this town hall a couple days ago, and he answers a few questions in just the most insane way imaginable. We don't have time to get into his answers. So then someone faints because it was really hot in there because they had all the doors closed because they were trying to keep people from leaving halfway through because that happens a lot at his events. So the paramedics are over, trying to get that person sorted, and while they're doing that, Trump tells his team to put on Ave Maria. Who doesn't want a little soundtrack to their public medical episode?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it could have been worse. Doctor, doctor, or even worse than that, ashes to ashes.
Yes, or Fire, Water, Burn by the Bloodhound Gang would be another good one. So then, that person is squared away and he keeps going, and then another person faints. So he has them put on Ave Maria again. And then he tries to make a little joke and he says, "Would anyone else like to faint? Let's go ahead and do it now."
Oh my God. Right, right. Extraordinary. That tells me though that he has his own people, in the group. And obviously if he's struggling, it's just like, remember, don't ask him any funny questions, just
Right.
faint. And then we've got to
Exactly.
stop the show because you fainted. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, clever actually.
Yeah, yeah. And then after that, he just kind of gave up on answering questions and just said, let's just play some music. And it was the most awkward, most weird thing you've ever seen. And he just kind of like bopped around on stage and did his little dance for 40 minutes. Let's take a quick look at this
Wow.
video.
Well, sir, do you want to play your song and then greet a few people, or do you want to? Well, you had said you wanted to close with a specific song.
Go and vote. Let me hear that music, please. Let me
Everyone,
hear
let's
that
thank
music.
President
Loud,
Trump.
Nice and loud. So play YMCA. Go ahead. Let's go. Nice and loud.
Here we go, everybody.
It's insane.
You know, that kind of reminds me of that film, They Shoot Horses, don't they? That film, was it the 70s? They had the dancing competition that kind of went on forever. Um, there you go. We're back to assassinations again. I got to say, he looks like he'd make a bad bingo caller, never mind president.
Yes, I think there are not too many jobs left to which I think he is well suited. Matt, I'm curious, have you ever had one of your politicians just kind of give up and start awkwardly dancing to some music?
No, I suppose the closest was Theresa May when she was party leader and prime minister, coming on and doing a bit of a jig to Dancing Queen. They played Dancing Queen as she came on, and we all
Mm.
know what a disaster that was. I do like to think that if the same thing had happened on this side of the pond, there would be a special advisor somewhere with nothing else to get one of those long crooks, as the
Hmm.
person was dancing, just come along and just you see the crook come along like that and just
Yeah.
yank them off.
Yes, where was that person when he needed them? This we do not have enough crook people backstage. You know, this guy has pudding for brains, and I can't believe anyone would ever vote for him. And it makes me furious that everybody's like, "Well, Kamala Harris isn't doing enough interviews with this type of," and it's like, look at this, look at
Yes,
this. And
yes.
there's no comparison between these two candidates. It is absolutely absurd that this race is close in the polls. So I don't know. Before I get myself too fired up, let's move to your side of the pond. How are things going over there? I hope that the drama isn't at quite such a fevered pitch.
Well, yeah, certainly not to that extent. No, over here, the Labour government has just had an investment summit in order to pull in some much needed funds to the economy, right? So they bring in all these foreign investors, not all of them. Um, when Elon Musk was not invited, he didn't take that
Oh,
very, yeah, boo hoo. So Starmer sat down with CEOs from some pretty big companies and basically said, guys, we've got a black hole in our economy. Come on, dig deep. All right. To be fair, he didn't say that. He was selling the UK to these companies on the basis of individuals having a well-paid and highly motivated workforce. I mean, crazy, right? Like having pride in your job.
yes, I have found that poverty can be quite motivating.
Right, right. But that's not to say he's doing everything right. The timing of the summit is just awful and it's just real head scratcher. It's been held 2 weeks before the budget. Obviously, this is going to be the Labour Party's first budget. So
Hmm.
a lot of questions are already being asked about it. But for the businesses themselves, they are taking the Labour Party on trust. And you're like, really? To be fair, when people talk about the differences between Labour and the Tories, that's it right there, isn't it? If the Tories had just said, take us on trust, there would have been a slight pause, then everybody would have burst out laughing.
Yes, they would be like, sorry, was that trust with a T or trust with an S? Because if it's the second one, we're not doing that.
But the right wing press are really going for the Labour Party. If you want to know to what extent their hatred is manifesting in all sorts of ridiculousness, have you heard of Taylorgate?
No, haven't heard of that one.
I mean, any idea what it might refer to?
No, no, I'm stumped on that.
Anything you're thinking of, you're probably going to be wide of the mark anyway. So Taylor Swift, you've heard of Taylor Swift.
Sure,
She
yes.
toured in the UK. Yeah. Who? She toured in the UK over the summer, and I mean, just about all the Labour government got tickets to see her. So these are
Gotcha.
freebies. So the press start to lose their various bits of crap over that, right? And drawing up false equivalents. You're going off to see Taylor Swift concerts, or pensioners freeze to death in their homes because of the scrapping of the winter fuel allowance. All this sort of nonsense going on.
Well, and that is somewhat fair. If it's like, okay, you're having fun instead of trying to figure out, how to actually solve problems. I get that. But also, this is the sort of thing that's been going on for ages. So surely people aren't surprised by this, at least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just to be clear, the taking of the winter fuel allowance, I think it's wrong. I think it's dreadful. I think it's bad,
Sure.
sort of, But yes, yes, take your point. But then one news outlet, I think it was Sky, says that they've been told by a source, because it's always an unnamed source, isn't it? That the government put pressure on the police to give Tay Tay, as I believe she likes to be known, a blue light escort, even though the police were a bit reluctant at first, but then agreed when the government intervened. And that press have absolutely jumped all over it. Now, the government's denying this, but this is the apparent scale of corruption in the UK, and they're calling it Taylorgate. It's just embarrassing.
I mean, they do know that someone was plotting an attack on her concert in Vienna, right? Like, it seems
Right.
like some extra law enforcement isn't a terrible idea. I would love to have a scandal like this in the US. This would be delightful. Uh, this sounds incredible. I hate that you're dealing with it, but Oh, what a problem to have.
Yeah, yeah, I know. You just sit there going, "This isn't proper corruption." Just have a look at what Boris was doing. Anyway, speaking of which,
Exactly.
so yes, we're coming back to that. Of course we are. By the way, Labour appear to have more gifts and donations than the Tories because, as members of the opposition, which they were up until obviously, as we know, July of this year, they had to declare just about everything. But
Hmm.
because of some bizarre, outdated parliamentary rule, the party in power, who were the Tories, didn't.
Hmm.
Now, Labour have now closed this loophole. So it'll be interesting to see, say, in 5 years' time at our next election, if Labour are still top in accepting gifts.
Well, hopefully, if anyone gifts them any winter heating fuel, they will share it with the pensioners. That'd be nice.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right, so Matt, I would like to end on a high note if I could, because I saw something that gave me hope, and I am all about
Okay.
sharing hope with people. I'm also all about sharing freakouts with people, but today we're going to do hope, okay? So, the conventional wisdom around elections in the States is that when more people vote, that usually ends up being better for Democrats. That is why Democrats are always trying to make voting easier, while Republicans want you to take a blood test and recite the alphabet backwards before you can get your ballot.
By the way, sorry, is that borne out by the facts? Is that has somebody looked at the actual charts and gone, more people have voted, and therefore
Yes,
Democrats?
yes. Higher voter turnout usually means better results for Democrats in elections. That's what the data has shown in the past.
Right.
So yesterday in Georgia, swing state, it was the first day of voting. Now, keep in mind that they're still digging out from the hurricane.
Yeah.
They've been worried that some ballots that were mail-in ballots might have gotten lost in the mail because of all the hurricane stuff. They've had a lot of people there trying to pass laws and do things to make voting harder. It's all that's been going on in Georgia. Now, the previous record for first day voting in Georgia was 136,000 votes in 2020. That's how many people voted on the first day of voting.
Right.
Yesterday, they shattered that record, 328,000
Wow.
votes,
Wow.
like more than double, despite all the difficulties they've been facing lately. And that cheered me up. I'm taking that as a good
Yeah.
sign.
Of course. Now, the thing is, as well, is that I guess a lot of people in a weird sort of way said, whatever else happens, it's like I can't speak for me. I always make sure I get things well ahead of time. But I suppose if you're sitting there thinking we don't want to miss this election, so
Right.
you're getting everything prepared, and and normally you might leave it to the last minute, but obviously for for clear reasons they can't. So they're getting ahead of the game and sort of making sure that the vote gets out and gets counted.
Exactly, exactly. And I read an article this morning where there was a woman saying, I think there is a silent majority of women who are ready to crawl over broken glass to
Mm.
vote against Donald Trump. And ironically, crawling over broken glass is how Republicans would prefer people to vote. So we will see. Scatter as much glass as you want around that polling place. There are a whole bunch of people who will do anything to get in there and cast their ballot. So,
Very good. My
yes,
only
yes.
concern, and I'm sorry because I know you want to finish on a high, my only concern is I can see already how the Republicans are going to twist it in
Yeah,
saying it's false voting, illegals are voting, and the hurricane voted and that sort of thing. Um, I don't know any other way apart from just hitting back on this narrative, because how else do you convince a cult that they're not in a cult? Yeah.
exactly. As long as there are no cult members who are judges who have the power to overturn any of the numerous legal battles that we know are coming, and we are all very aware of that. I read that Kamala Harris has lawyers in all the swing states that are ready for whatever pops up. There were a couple of good rulings that came out of Georgia yesterday. That the Trump people were trying to say, oh, we have to hand count all of the ballots in Georgia, and the judge was like, no, we don't. No, we're not doing that. And that would make the election results take weeks. And he was like, we're not doing that. And then there was something else shifty that they were trying to pass, where basically the people who certify the election were trying to say, like, well, I can just certify it or refuse to certify it however I want, right? And the judge was like, no, you have to do your job.
Yes.
So those were a couple of good rulings that came out. So all in all, good news coming out of Georgia, and I'm excited to see what's happening there.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you very much for ending this show on a positive note.
Well, sometimes we have to have a little hope in our lives, even though our insides are liquefied. So we're going to wrap things up. I have a lot of binge drinking to do later today. I'm ready to move towards stage 5 on the chart. But for more from Matt, please visit his channel at The Interesting Times UK on YouTube, where he very excitingly is going to be making more new videos each week. Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of what your new schedule is going to look like?
Yes, so essentially I've gone from doing, beforehand, as you know, I used to do like 25 minutes on a Sunday, which is taking forever. And by the time I'd finished it, the news was already kind of gone through another cycle. As we both know, we both understand how it works.
Sure.
So I figured split it up a bit more and try and keep pace with it a bit more. I do one show on a Monday. It's only a few minutes long. Another one on Wednesday and Friday. They're about 6-7 minutes long. And still sticking with the Sunday one, and that's going to be about 10 minutes long rather than about 20. So more split out and hopefully more up to date.
Matt is going to be gracing your eyeballs and your ear holes 4 times a week. That is excellent news. See, look at how positive of a note we are ending on today. This is great. So please head on over to Matt's channel, hit that subscribe button so you can get all of those videos and keep up with the latest. And of course, we will be back here on Friday to wrap up the news of the week, which there is plenty of. So go ahead and give us both some subscribes, and we will be back next week. This week, in between all of the days, all with more videos for you. So everybody,
Always
take care.
something happening.
Exactly. Always something going on. We'll be here to talk about it. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.